Let's get into the advisory now with a focus on the intergenerational wealth transfer that's occurring. Now, to discuss how people should and can create an estate plan, Roger Perrott from Freshwater Wealth joins me in the studio. I mean, this is something we talk about a lot. It's going to be the biggest intergenerational wealth transfer that we have seen. How do you sort of have these hard conversations and how do you start with this?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We look after sort of high net worth individuals and helping them with their overall retirement plan, and estate planning is like one of the key pillars, if you like, that people really want to address. So I think it always starts in terms of what their will says. Sometimes people don't have a will, or sometimes it's really just starting that ideal gifting plan. Like if you were to pass away, not that nice to think about it, but what would you ideally like to happen with your assets? And we sort of start the conversation from there.
So you said there's sort of 7 steps to look at. You're talking there about creating your gifting plan. Just talk us through some of these steps, and I guess just the fact that even though it's a tough conversation to have, it's one we probably should be having. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so I think the first one is the ideal gifting plan, and that's generally if someone passes away, they say, I'll give it to my partner, and then if those people our clients are single, that they may be other family members. But that can also consider, well, should we do it once we pass away, or we're seeing increasingly, should we actually start gifting away money now to people or children who need help with home deposits and things like that. So instead of actually waiting until you pass away, bringing the gifting forward. So the first one is, really creating that gifting plan and when to actually enact that plan.
I guess you kind of always need a plan B in life as well. What is the plan B if things, don't go to plan A, I should say? Yeah,
that's right. So that's our second one. So consider plan B. So that's where maybe if you're giving everything to your partner, what happens if your partner passes away before you do? Or God forbid, let's just say both of you pass away together in an accident. What's plan B? Now, generally, people then like the assets to go to their children, and in many cases that's quite simple, dividing everything up equally. But we do see a lot where there may be like an estranged child, for example, who they haven't spoken to for years and years. Now, what do we do in that scenario? Or in many cases, high net worth people may have a business. How do you split that up or what have you? So there are some challenges when you get to that next layer and you're looking at that plan B, like what do we do in those type of scenarios?
I assume there's tax implications too for the people that are inheriting some of this wealth. How does all of that play out, or how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, that's right, and that's another one of our steps, really consider the tax. So to give an example, superannuation is like one of the greatest financial opportunities these days. For retirees, they're not paying any tax on any of their earnings. However, the clanger is though, if they pass away and the money goes to their adult children or non-financial dependents, there can be up to like 17% tax. So you're absolutely right. Tax is a really big consideration when you're making those plans. So in that scenario, maybe it's better to give your superannuation to an individual, like your partner, and then divide other assets amongst other family members. So instead of that, just split everything, amongst, on a percentage basis, for example, maybe it's actually better to gift certain specific assets to certain people for those tax reasons.
Now, this I assume is all linked as well to your will, to how you want your assets to be divided. Tell us the importance, I guess, here of also finding out who can act on your behalf.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a couple of things there. So these days, it's really sad, but more and more people we're finding are suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's and things like that. So if that actually occurs, sometimes it's too late to get these things in place. So it's really important to consider what we call an enduring power of attorney, which means you can actually allow someone else to act on your financial affairs if you're not in a position or in a mental state to do so. So you can imagine if a client or the siblings of a client came to me and said, we need some money for our parents' care or medical expenses, I've got to say, I'm sorry, I can't help you, of course. But if there's a power of attorney, we can then act and we can provide the financial assets or whatever they need to be able to bring that to pass. So So yeah, I guess who can act is also very important.
What are you seeing in trends as well of potentially skipping a generation, because the boomers, if you want to call them that, might just see that their grandchildren are going to have like an even harder time to get into the property market, for example?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got a client at the moment who's got quite a large property portfolio, and that exactly same thing happened. They've got a number of apartments. Interesting, it was a bit of a funny one. They put all the they're planning to put all the properties in a hat, and if they pass away, the grandkids basically pull out of the hat and they get an apartment each. So we are seeing a little bit of that. That type of thing exactly happening, like sort of skipping a generation and going to the grandkids, because people foresee they're the ones that potentially need it, not our kids who are sort of 40 or 50. It's the kids, in that next generation that need more help.